Welcome into Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. The first day of OTAs for your Baltimore Ravens in the books, and we are going to go over what you need to know, what we've learned so far from the first day of Ravens OTAs. And I'll admit, the information's somewhat limited out there as the practices were not available to the media. We heard a limited amount from John Harbaugh as he was discussing his new coaching academy and some other things. But of the details we have, we'll pass them along to you here coming up on today's show. Before we do, the May sub-battle continues between Ravens Rundown and Bengals Breakdown. And Bengals Breakdown with a little bit of an edge, but we're coming down to the final stretch. A photo finish to see who's going to win this sub-battle. Sub for season dubs this season. So we beat those Bengals, not just on the football field, but off the football field as well. Show why we have the best fans in the AFC North. Daily Ravens coverage you won't find anywhere else. Subscribe now for free. Don't miss a moment. We got you covered here on the channel. Subscribe now. You'd be glad you did. Let's start off with King Henry. The King has made his arrival. Derrick Henry is here, and he looks like he's in great shape. We're going to show you a couple photos here in just a second as Derrick Henry, man, I got to tell you, with Patrick Ricard right in front of him, I don't want to be that defender having to deal with these two guys here. That is not a pretty sight to be taking on these two. And you can see Derrick Henry looking pretty lean as well. Not only looking great, looking crispy with that Ravens uniform and everything for the first time, but coming to OTAs in great shape. Great to see from Derrick Henry on that front. Derrick Henry comes to Baltimore on a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Ravens this offseason for the former NFL Offensive Player of the Year and the 4-time Pro Bowler. And the question becomes, with Derrick Henry another year older at this point, what version of Derrick Henry are the Baltimore Ravens getting? How much juice does he have left in the tank? And think about this. Tennessee Titans last year were just a disaster offensively, right? The offensive line was atrocious. That offense just as a whole was terrible. And Derrick Henry still played in all 17 games last year, rushed for over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4.2 yards per carry. The offensive line in Baltimore has some question marks. We'll talk about them here in just a bit. But with how much better this team is, and Derrick Henry won't be asked to do as much as he was asked to do in Tennessee with having Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and all these weapons. I expect a big year out of Derrick Henry. I think you're going to like what you see out of the King Henry this year in Baltimore. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Is Derrick Henry going to have a big year with the Baltimore Ravens? It's our pinned comment today. Weigh in, tell us what you think. Y for yes, in for no, if you're buying or selling Derrick Henry here in 2024. No clear-cut starters at left guard, and right tackle. Those competitions really crank up, get heated up now here with the start of OTAs. And here's what we're looking at right now, folks. Let's begin with each position one by one. The left guard spot, Andrew Voorhees is the favorite to win that job. He missed all of last season as he was injured. Basically took a redshirt year of sorts, if you will. And then you got Maul behind him as well, the former Oregon Duck. Also another young player. They'll compete for playing time at that position. Right guard, Ben Cleveland, the starter at the moment, but the jury's kind of still out on Ben Cleveland. He's got a lot to prove here in OTAs and beyond. He's had plenty of chances to be a starter in the past, but hasn't really put it all together yet. Also wouldn't rule out the possibility that the Ravens could go sign a veteran, maybe like a Dalton Reisner of sorts, to be one of these starting guard spots and knock out one of those guys in their positions. Ben Cleveland probably more likely to be the odd man out. And then the right tackle position, Roger Rosengarten, the Ravens' second-round pick out of Washington. A lot of optimism from him of what he could potentially bring to the table here for this group. And the long-term hope is that he eventually replaces Ronnie Stanley at the left tackle position. But an unproven group. You got two good ones in Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum for sure. But now we get to see how this group comes together. John Harbaugh seems to be pretty optimistic about them going forward. Speaking of Roger Rosengarten and the rest of the rookies' arrival, first time that they were in the building with the veterans. Obviously, you had rookie minicamp a couple of weeks ago, but now we see for the first time the rookies going up one-on-one with these veterans, and specifically Nate Wiggins, who was the talk of the first day of OTAs. And he's in an interesting competition for playing time as the Ravens have a loaded corner room. When you talk the likes of Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, you drafted TJ Tampa as well. Where does Nate Wiggins factor into this equation here? When you got Stevens and Humphrey, is Wiggins going to be a day one outside corner starter? And I am of the belief that he's got a great shot to do so, quite frankly. He was a player that the Ravens were not expecting to be available at 30th overall, and yet there he was. And the impact that he should make right away, I think you're going to see him be very impressive from the jump. Coming in from Clemson last year, where he had 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. The year prior, 13 pass breakups and an interception. But here's the thing: when you look at Nate Wiggins here, for me, is what he does as a lockdown defender, right? Holding quarterbacks to a QB rating of 44.4, that's going to translate. Giving up just 18 completions, less than 200 yards there, I think all of that is stuff that should translate well to that next level as far as I'm concerned. And you think about Marlon Humphrey last year with the injuries and how inconsistent he was. Brandon Stevens had a very solid year, a breakout year for himself. The odd man out in this equation, in all honesty, might end up being Marlon Humphrey. I know he's the former Pro Bowler and everything, but we very well could be talking about Marlon Humphrey being the nickel back or being the backup outside corner when it's all said and done. Watch out for Nate Wiggins as he's impressed so far to this point. Who's the breakout player for the Ravens this offseason? Is it Nate Wiggins? Is it somebody else out there? Give me a name in the comment section who you think is going to step up and have a big offseason for the Baltimore Ravens. Speaking of potential breakout options, Justice Hill. He is competing to be the number 2 running back for the Baltimore Ravens, and he is coming in looking ripped, folks. Here is a look at Justice Hill, the former Oklahoma State running back, and showing off, as you can see there, the muscles and everything. And a great opportunity ahead for Justice Hill as Keaton Mitchell is injured at the moment. There's talk that he might not be back till the month of October. And with Rasheen Ali, the rookie running back coming in from Marshall, Justice Hill's got a great chance to be that number 2 running back. And John Harbaugh recently talked about Justice Hill, that he felt like Justice Hill had a breakout year, if you will, in 2023, that he kind of salvaged the running back room with all the injuries that the Ravens endured at that position last year. And he's coming in on the second year of a 2-year extension. You can see last season he had career highs in carries and yardage and touchdowns as well for Justice Hill. So we'll see what he can do with his opportunity ahead of him for there. As you can see the depth chart at the moment, Hill, the number 2 back, but don't rule out what Keaton Mitchell and Rasheen Ali could do, but going to be very competitive. The Ravens have some much-needed depth, and no team has had worse luck in the NFL over the years when it comes to the running back position and injuries than the Baltimore Ravens. Last on our takeaways, John Harbaugh announced he's launching a coaching academy, and this is with the blessing of his father, who, of course, was a very good coach, and his brother Jim, who's now with the LA Chargers, won a national championship this past year with the Michigan Wolverines. And here's what he had to say about this coaching academy initiative, and you can go online and see for yourself and take part in this academy. Here's what Harbaugh said. We want to help coaches be a force for good and make a lasting positive impact. The Harbaugh Coaching Academy coaching family is made up of some of the most recognizable and influential leaders in sports, business, military, and the media to have meaningful discussions about the relevant coaching subjects, from tactical instruction and leadership skills to inspirational stories, mental health, and even advice for parents who want to coach to be effective both on and off the field. And in attendance for the announcement, who's going to be a part of the coaching academy, actually is Bill Belichick. So good to see the greatest coach in the history of the game in the building, and passing along his words of wisdom to Harbaugh and the Ravens coaching staff there. We talked about some of the new players that are making their arrivals, their debuts in Baltimore this week. Who are you most excited about that is a new member of the Baltimore Ravens? Well, in the comment section, give me a name or two that comes to mind that you're most intrigued with with the Ravens here this offseason. Thanks for joining us here on this OTAs recap edition of Ravens Rundown. Subscribe now for continuing OTAs coverage throughout the week. We got you covered. YouTube.com/RavensTV. I'm Tyler Jones. We'll see you next time.